Next, we have David Schroeder, and with the topic managing the chronic pain cycle using cannabinoids. Just a little intro. David Schroeder, he's a chronic pain survivor. He's the author of the book 7 Ways to Manage Pain with CBD. We're super happy to have you here. He has been helping chronic pain sufferers, and he's one of the nation's foremost advocates for the use of cannabinoid for therapeutic pain management. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you guys? So I am David Anthony Schroeder. I am a chronic pain survivor. Me and pain, we don't get along very well. Unfortunately, life does not give vacations from pain. And, you know, if you're the head of household and you have to get up and you have to work, it doesn't matter how bad the pain is, you still have to provide income, don't you? Mm-hmm. And aspirin doesn't work, Tylenol doesn't work. I've tried everything legal, illegal. I've tried pretty much everything to manage pain. So today I want to talk about using cannabidiol, CBD, and cannabis to fight pain. So let me see what we got here. So the first thing I want to say is, I'm not a doctor, I'm a patient. So I don't give medical advice, I can only tell you what I've learned from the medical studies that I've been reading. I don't know why they're not popping up there. Oh, it's got some interactivity, okay. So, cool. I didn't program that, but someone else did for me, that's really cool. So, I don't give medical advice, but I can tell you how to use CBD to fight your pain, and CBD with cannabis as well. So I'm from another state, I'm not from Atlanta, I don't know all the laws and rules here, so I hear one thing and then I hear something else, so I have to kind of tiptoe. I'm from Los Angeles, but I moved to Texas, and the rules, keeping up with all the rules is so difficult, so I don't give medical advice, but I can tell you how to use it. All right, that's my thing. So, something important, especially for elderly people, if you're on prescribed medications, there are some things you need to be aware of. CBD does not always play nice, especially with prescribed medications. So if you have a medication, there's about 185 of them, that if you have a grapefruit warning on that label, do not take CBD. Do not. The reason being is because the enzymes from grapefruit and the same enzymes from CBD, those enzymes, it manipulates the same enzymes in your liver. And so those enzymes will prevent the liver from breaking down certain prescribed medications. So the first thing you have to pay attention to is if you're on prescribed medications, look for this. Now, if you don't have this, there are a lot of medications that CBD plays nice with. You don't necessarily have a problem. Check with a cannabis doctor. Don't talk to your doctor. Not that you shouldn't talk to your doctor, you should. The thing is, medical doctors don't know because they've not been trained. They have no understanding about using cannabis as medicine. Now, cannabis doctors, they understand the difference between using prescribed medications, and they know a lot of the interactions between CBD and CBN and CBG and all of the other cannabinoids and prescription medications. And so here's the thing, CBD will act like a boss. So think of your liver as a castle with a moat around it, right? And the little drawbridge comes down and everything can come into the castle and everything's fine, right? Well, if CBD comes in and takes control of that liver, it's going to bring that drawbridge back up, and then some of those drugs, they're going to go into the liver to be processed out of the bloodstream. CBD is going to say, you ain't coming in here. And what happens is that toxicity builds up in your bloodstream. So that's one of the issues that happens with CBD and other prescribed medications. So your first line of defense is to look for this. If you don't have this, do what research you can or find a medical or a cannabis doctor who's a medical doctor but understands the differences and might help you navigate those waters. Something else to be considered or to consider with your CBD is it can amplify other side effects of certain medications. So for example, one of the side effects for CBD, if you take too much, is drowsiness, right? So that, in some cases, that's a good thing. In other cases, you know, you don't want to be drowsy, you want to work. Well, if you're taking a drug that one of the side effects is drowsiness, CBD can amplify and make you even more drowsy. So that's something to consider. So whatever the side effects are of CBD, like one can be, if you take too much, can be diarrhea, one can be drowsiness, some can be having some dry mouth. So there are some things that CBD can cause as a side effect, but it will amplify those effects in other drugs. So pay attention to what you're taking so that you know that you're not going to overdo on being drowsy, mixing your prescriptions with cannabis. So let's see what's next here. Okay, so a little bit about me. So my story, oops, too far. Okay, so my story is I'm a pain sufferer. I suffered my first injury at the age of 7, riding down a hill, riding my little banana bike. I saw a rock down the road and I had to hit that rock. One, I'm hyperactive. I'm constantly bouncing off the walls. I'm 57 now. My wife tells me I'm still bouncing off the walls. I'm still pretty hyperactive. So the problem with being hyperactive is you need activities that are pretty extreme to help you scrub off some of that excess energy. If not, you can't sit still. I was prescribed Ritalin at 5, was supposed to stay until I was 18. It's probably one of the worst drugs I've ever experienced because really, it turns you into an active, I don't even know what the word to say is, but you feel like, but yet you're moving, you still have energy, but yet it's supposed to calm you, a speed that calms you down. That's an oxymoron. That doesn't make sense to me, but that's what the drug is supposed to do. I discovered cannabis at 12, and that became the replacement for Ritalin. And I've used it off and on throughout my life, and it helps, even though most states it's illegal. Anyway, so a lot of my injuries I've suffered from pursuing extreme activities. I've been in several motor vehicle accidents. I've hit trees. I've nosedived into cracks in the mountains and Volkswagens for having fun. I've done stupid things. But the results are of having to be active, lots of injuries. And injuries don't go away. So I have what I call pain events. So we have economic events, we have catastrophic events. David has a pain event. So a pain event will last maybe 3 or 4 weeks, several months. In one case, putting 2 of my daughters to bed when they were children, I'm tickling them and it's time for bed, and no daddy, and I'm playing and we're having fun. As my hand is coming down, a little foot is coming up. And that jammed I was a huge mountain biker and martial artist. When that jammed my thumb into the socket of my hand, I was in pain for 10 years. And this was pre-CBD, at least for me. And that wrecked my life. And for 10 years I had that event. So I learned to treat my pain as an event, so I treat the event and I work on overcoming that event. And I have them frequently. I have my shoulder. I told you I had an injury at 7. I realized 2 years ago that same injury has plagued me my entire life, but I've never put 2 and 2 together. And so now I have these moments where my shoulder and my arm are locked up and I'm like a robot. I'm like, hey man, what's up? I'm in pain, but I have to work because there's no vacation from life. You still have to perform. And when I was initially turned on to CBD, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. My wife and I were pretty well connected to a lot of the cannabis industry in California. And a lot of people would give me stuff, and I'd try, like, yeah, okay, cool, this is nice. And one day somebody gave me a pain stick. And I put that pain stick up, and I looked at it, and I'm like, this is a joke, right? I've used Dragon Balm, I've used Bengay, I've used everything under the sun. This CBD stuff, come on, you're joking. Well, I'm here because that joke was on me. I spent probably 3 years digging in, studying, trying to figure out this thing. You know, going on the internet and looking for information about, you know, using cannabidiol and CBD for pain or for issues. There's a whole lot of information out there. But basically that information is trying to sell you something. So yeah, oh, it's good for this, this, and this. Buy it and it's going to help you. BS. 2/3 of the product out there per a study are incorrectly labeled, and 1/3 of them are bogus. So be careful what you guys buy. So I tried the CBD. I put this thing on. I lathered my neck and my shoulder, and within like 45 minutes, I went from probably an 8 and being kind of locked up to actually being like down to about a 6. I could move. Just not a lot of movement. There was still a lot of swelling. I could move. I could slightly turn my neck, and I wasn't like this, and I was like, oh my God, this stuff is real. Now, I discovered a lot of the stuff that I was given was not very good. So a lot of people give me their product. If I like it, I'll say something. If I don't, I'll say, hey, cool, thank you very much. So my life has been plagued with injuries. I'm 57 now that I'm getting older. Injuries do not play nice. They come back and they visit to say hi, and they're not fun. And I'm understanding, I know that a lot of you guys here struggle with chronic pain, and pain is, it's a tough thing. So look at your life as pain events, deal with the event as you can. That's how I deal with it. So I compartmentalize it. And then I can keep it here, and I can still do life over here, but I'm still struggling with my area over here and still moving on. So that's kind of how I worked CBD into my life, and how I've kind of worked my pain events into an event. And I compartmentalize it, and I pull it out when I need it. And it's there open when I don't need it. Like right now, my neck and my shoulder are killing me, but, you know, I still have to live my life, you know, so. Okay, so let's go on. So, oh, too far. Hang on, there we go. So this is the McGill pain scale. You know, everybody knows the pain scale of like on a scale of 1 to 10, right? So back in the 70s, Dr. McGill came up, they studied, I don't know, like either 700 or 7,000 people. And they found all of the different types of pain, where they fall on a scale. And so he put together this scale from 1 to 50. And if you can see here, you know, 0 obviously is no pain. Shingles and nerve pain, a tooth fracture and a sprain are up at about a 10, okay? Ladies, those of you who are mothers who have given birth, that has been rated at about a 30. They say that's with training. Someone who's had no training or being prepared for childbirth could be like between 35 and 40 on the scale of pain. My pain, the strongest pain I've ever had has been up to about a 30 for my pain events. And so this is called the McGill pain scale, right? On a scale from 1 to 0 to 50, and you kind of look where you fall in that. Now what I've done is I've kind of broken it up. And I'm going to cover the types of pain in a second, but so you have acute pain, which can be brought on suddenly. You have a car accident, you fall off your skateboard, you have a motorcycle accident, you weren't wearing a helmet, you got injury like that. That's an acute pain, and usually they'll last, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. Okay? Chronic pain, like me, can last weeks, months, and in many cases years. As you get higher, high impact chronic pain, so the CDC said there's about 50 million people in the United States that suffer from chronic pain. Another 20 million that suffer from high impact chronic pain, which means we're going out to the picnic to have fun today. Well, mom is in such pain that she's still bedridden. So that's a high impact chronic pain. Then we have what's called CRPS, which I'll go over these here in just a second. So depending on where you are in your pain scale, the type of pain you're dealing with, this is kind of how you look at where you are on your scale for pain. So, okay. CBD, there's one reason why it works. Is everybody in here familiar with what's called the endocannabinoid system? Has anybody ever not heard of the endocannabinoid system? Okay, so just briefly, the endocannabinoid system, basically, it regulates pretty much everything in your body, okay? The endocannabinoid system it's a signaling system that goes from the brain throughout the entire body, and I'm going to give you an illustration about it shortly, but without your endocannabinoid system, the two plants, cannabis and hemp, will not impact your body. So it's kind of funny that we have this system in our bodies that the brain releases chemicals to, and those same chemicals have similar compounds in two plants that grow naturally. And yet, as a human species, half of us are at war with that plant. Because the rest of us that need that plant, they don't want us to have that plant. Why? I don't know. Well, no, we do know why. We do know, because there's a lot of money in prison systems, so we do know why. So, this is Dr. David Allen. This is what he has to say about the endocannabinoid system. Now I'm just going to read the bottom part. The discovery of the endocannabinoid system is the single most important medical scientific discovery ever and will save more lives than the discovery and application of sterile surgical technique. I'm a heart surgeon saying that, so more people will be saved by manipulation of the endocannabinoid system than are currently saved by surgery. So, how do you manipulate that system? Cannabis and hemp. Two plants that have similar chemical compounds, that our brains release are found in those two plants, and you can manipulate your body by adding the compounds from those two plants. And there's like 113, 114 cannabinoid chemical compounds in those two plants. And we have no clue what a huge chunk of them do yet. Because we've been, it's been illegal to touch those plants. And that's too bad, because my theory, the reason why the last 70 years we as humans have been so sick, 6,000 years prior to that, there's all this history of the cannabis plant being used for a variety of things. In 1920, there were three big pharma companies, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, and one other one, who made a chemical compound for like 100 different ailments using cannabis. And so throughout history, our bodies have had those cannabinoids through a variety of reasons, just from nature. And then prohibition comes along, and we take away those cannabinoids that feed the body, that manipulate the endocannabinoid system, that brings health, healing, that brings calm, that brings or reduces inflammation. We've been robbed of that food that our body needs. So my theory is, because of prohibition, we brought a whole lot more health issues and disease upon us than we really needed to. But big pharma and big paper companies needed to make these illegal so that they could make big money. We suffered. But we're coming back, right? The plant is coming back. So, okay. All right. So let me give you a visual representation of what the endocannabinoid system looks like. So think of a car. This is going to be exactly like your endocannabinoid system. Think of a car. A car is made up of various systems, right? You've got the braking system, you've got the ignition system, you've got the sound and cooling system, you've got all these various systems. And depending on how much money you make, you can buy cars with lots of various systems, with cool bass speakers, and your car can be totally tricked out, right? If your car is missing one element, just one thing, nothing in that car will work. It's called the wiring harness. That wiring harness connects to the computer of the car, and then it connects to all of those electrical elements. It also connects to what are called sensors. So what do those sensors do? They relay information back and forth. So when you're driving down the road and your check tire light comes on, basically that signaling system going over the wiring harness is letting you know that something's wrong in the car. Your endocannabinoid system is similar in that it connects to your brain, it then connects to your heart, and then it connects to all of these organs in your body, and they have what are called receptors. So it's called the endocannabinoid signaling system. Just like the sensors on your car, information transfers back and forth between your brain and these receptors. Now in my case, I need CBD because it's anti-inflammatory. It reduces swelling. It makes big, aching, hurting, torn, sore muscles shrink faster than not having it. So this system that's in your body, it regulates how you feel. It regulates how fast you heal. It regulates how you think. Everything in your body, the homeostasis of your body is all based on this one part of your body. Now, just like people who are diabetics, you know, you have insulin receptors in your body, so when your brain releases the insulin, it comes along, and like antenna, these receptors, it's like a radio wave coming through, and it grabs that insulin so that your body gets it wherever those insulin receptors are. It's the same thing for the cannabinoids. When they're released from your brain, or if you introduce them from something, smoking, inhaling, vaping, oils, drops, topicals, whatever you're doing, you're manipulating, as Dr. David Allen said, you're manipulating your endocannabinoid system using cannabinoids. And this system, when you see a child who is having seizures hundreds of times a day, their endocannabinoid system is missing cannabinoids. They're missing things. So when they give them, and they're giving them high doses of CBD, but when they give them these CBDs and these various formulations of CBD, what's happening is it calms the body, it makes the seizures come down. Like there are some children who I've seen having hundreds a day to maybe having one or two a year, and you see them, they're catatonic before they start, you know, doing these regimens. And within months, they're back up and playing like little children. They're being normal. Their livelihood of their existence has come back. They're no longer catatonic. And so my theory is that we have damaged ourselves by prohibition and making two plants that we're at war with. Two plants. How do you go to war with plants? So that's the endocannabinoid system. So I want you to visualize that endocannabinoid system so you can see kind of what it looks like in your body, you know, using the car wiring harness. Okay, so can CBD reduce pain? The biggest thing about CBD is that it is anti-inflammatory. Yes, I know it does stuff for anxiety. It's great for PTSD. Yes, it's good for seizures. Yes, it's good for hearing stuff about Alzheimer's. Great for stroke victims. But for me, I don't suffer with those things. I suffer from inflammation and joint pain and stuff. So for me, I need the anti-inflammatory stuff of the plant to work in my body. So I wanted to share something that everybody knows who Dr. Gupta is from CNN. So this is what he said. I wanted to read a letter and I put it in my book. He says, I feel obligated to share the results of my 5-year-long investigation into the medical benefits of the cannabis plant. Before I started this worldwide in-depth investigation, I was not particularly impressed by the results of medical marijuana research. But a few years later, as I started to dedicate time with patients and scientists in various countries, I came to a different conclusion. The consensus is clear. Cannabis can effectively treat pain. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine arrived at this conclusion last year after what it described as the most comprehensive studies of recent research on the health of effects of cannabis. And that was a letter to Attorney Jeff Sessions when he was still as the Attorney General for the United States. Oh, did I just turn it off? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So, does CBD work for pain? It absolutely does, as I am a living testament, living, breathing testament that it does. So, as I was mentioning before, there are 4 types of pain. There's acute pain, which comes on rather quickly, right? So we have accidents, we injure ourselves, and you know, you can take CBD or cannabidiol mixed with other things like either a broad spectrum or a full spectrum to fight pain. Okay, so this would be a case where if you have an accident, you have an injury to your neck or something, you might use it for 12 weeks. Once you're done with the pain and the pain is gone, you've dealt with that particular injury, there's no need to really keep taking unless you're using for something else. The next one, as I told you about, is chronic pain, which lasts for months, lasts for years, depending on the illness you may be dealing with. Okay, so I know a lot of people that deal with chronic pain, but they use a lot of advanced methods for using or intaking CBD. They do what's called dabbing. They'll dab various mixtures of CBD with other things in various formulations, using like sage, lavender. They'll use either coconut oil or some other base or whatever they're making. And so they'll do these dabbing things, and they're doing serious intake because they're fighting some serious pain, which is like CRPS. So I told you about high impact chronic pain. The worst pain is the CRPS, the complex regional pain syndrome. And so when these guys are trying to find pain relief, they're using a combination of CBD and THC. And the reason being is, I want you to think of CBD as like a Molotov cocktail. You've got that Molotov cocktail, you light it, you throw it, and poof, it does a little bit of damage, leaves behind a lot of soot, right? Take a stick of dynamite. Think of a stick of dynamite or think of THC as a stick of dynamite. Add that stick of dynamite to that Molotov cocktail and then throw it. Then what happens? It's a whole different impact. So when you're using THC with your CBD, you're fighting a different type of pain, like this chronic regional pain syndrome. They call it the burning limb syndrome. They say it's like, picture a baseball player, a pitcher who's always throwing every day, right? And then he comes after the game's over with, he puts his arm in an ice tank to chill down his arm, right? So flip that for a CRPS patient. They say that can is filled with gas, it's on fire, their limb, the entire limb is submerged in there, and that's their life. There is no deliverance from that. So they have opioids. The opioids are addictive, they're destructive to your heart, they're destructive to your kidneys and your liver. And so they've found that there are other formulations for using a mixture of the cannabis plant to fight pain. And so you can think of, like you may hear a formulation of a 50-to-1 CBD. That means, if you hear something like that, 50-to-1 means 50 drops of CBD to 1 drop of THC. You might hear like 25-to-1 ratio. That means 25 drops of CBD to 1 drop of THC. Or 1-to-1. That means they're using 1 drop of THC or to 1 drop of CBD, 1 molecule of each. And so obviously the more THC that you have in there, the stronger the impact it's going to have on your body. And this is not for getting high. This is not for being Cheech and Chong and being laid out like, hey man, hey, this is good stuff. There's no get high. It's not about, they're not looking to get high. They want to function. I've got friends who have lost limbs. I know people who have given up their lives because the pain is so bad and they can't find answers. These are some of the answers that are coming out now about cannabidiol and other plant compounds to help fight pain. So, and you can fight it on multiple fronts. So, let's see. Okay, so I've already told you, so it's anti-inflammatory, it's from the plant, and it helps. When I talk about fighting on multiple planes, if you fight a war, you're going to fight it on multiple fronts so that you can win, right? Oh, let's see, they didn't all pop up. Okay, so what types of things can you take for use with CBD. So orally, you've got tinctures, you've got sublinguals. These are things you put under your tongue. You can take it either down your throat. When you take edibles and you take oil just straight down the throat, it has to go through the process of the stomach and the liver, and it's got to go through the digestion process. So that process takes much longer. Not only that, you lose some of the CBD content to being consumed through the liver and the stomach. Sublingually, obviously you're putting it under your tongue. So you're letting the membranes under your tongue soak up the CBD that's in there. Edibles, inhaling, vaping and smoking. Topicals. So for me, I'll take stuff internally, and then I'll also use a topical. I'll use an oil. I use nanotechnology, and I use it sublingually. I use that, and then I use a topical. And for me, it's like a superpower. I can actually function, like today. A lot of times I can't do that. When I'm having a pain event with my left arm, I can't do that. So these are the various ways that you can consume CBD into your regimen. And the other one, I don't know, you can probably even use powders, if you guys like powders. You can sprinkle it into food that you make. You can sprinkle CBD powders into a variety of things. So these are the ways that you can work CBD into your daily routine. And it's important if you're struggling with pain. One of the things that people always say to me is well, how come it didn't work for me? And I asked them, I said, okay, so, well, if it didn't work for you, what did you do? I mean, how long did you use it? What did you try? And a lot of times people say, well, I tried it for 2 days. I didn't like it, didn't taste good or whatever. And so I use this illustration so that they understand how to use CBD, why to use it, and for how long. So one of the things is they say that it doesn't work for them. Okay, so think of it this way. I want you guys to picture a general sitting over a battlefield. And he looks over the battlefield, he notices that on his west flank that his enemy has broken through. So what does he do? In his wisdom, he grabs a platoon of soldiers and he goes and he sends them over to where the opening is. Now during that battle, some are killed, some are wounded, some run away, and some run out of ammunition. Now the next day, as the general looks over the battlefield, he says, okay, well, I have got more men there today than I did yesterday. He sends another platoon of men over there to block that hole. Each day, he keeps sending more over there, and within about a week's time, he's blocked where that enemy is coming through. So researchers tell us that it takes about a week for CBD to build up into your system. So every day that you're taking CBD, look at it this way. You're sending fresh troops onto your personal battlefield. You have a battlefield. You're the general. Your job is to send fresh troops there every day so that your enemy cannot prevail against you. And what is that? Inflammation and pain. So researchers say you need to take it for about a week for it to build up into your system to have a full impact. And then once you start having that full impact, it's just about maintaining where you are. And you'll know, if you're not taking enough, you're still going to have, a lot of pain. If you're taking enough, your pain reduction is going to be pretty way down there. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It wears off. During the battle, some are wounded, some are killed, some run away, and some run out of ammunition. So you have to reuse your CBD. People say, well, I used it and it didn't work. Well, but you have to keep using it. It becomes a part of your routine. If pain is a part of your life, then battling the pain becomes your routine. And so you're the general. Send fresh troops onto your battlefield to fight that battle for you. So that's why it's important to, if you're going to start something, start it and continue working on it. So, anybody got any questions about using cannabis, using cannabidiol, CBD for, yes?
So, how much, as far as the
Dosage?
yes, do you use for your pain? Or?
It varies, and it depends on how I take it. a lot of times, because I'm using it topically and internally, I'm probably taking maybe 40, 50, sometimes 60 milligrams. But a lot of it, when I take it internally, some of that I lose, so I always do a little extra. But I'm fighting a multi-front war, so that's why I use a topical but see now, if 25 milligrams is good for me, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for you, because your digestion is different, everything about your makeup is different from me. There are some people who can't digest food, so they have to take a different way of consuming their food through liquid diets. They can take CBD orally, liquidly. I don't know, can you guys hear me? It seems like I'm not coming through the microphone. So finding your dosage, it's different from every person. And the daily amount or the multiple times per day is going to be different for each person. So for you, if you're looking for a place to start, you want to start slow and you want to start low. So you want to start maybe at 5 milligrams, 3 to 5 days. Make sure that you don't have an adverse reaction to it. If you have an adverse reaction, then it's either because you're taking some medications or your body's not tolerating it. If you're tolerating that and it's okay, you're not having any issues, then you can up the dosage, and then you get to a point where, like after maybe 2 weeks, you're taking it enough, you're gonna recognize, just from walking out into the world, you're gonna recognize, life is, there's some clarity here to what's going on in my head. And that's just kind of like a natural byproduct of what happens from using cannabidiol or CBD. It kind of gives you that clarity. You will recognize things in your body. You will recognize subtle differences and changes over time if you keep using it. You will notice, depending on the brand and the manufacturer and what you're taking, there are some that are medicine CBD, right? Because there are people that are formulating certain formulas to fight illness, other than just, taking CBD at the gas station. There are some serious doctors that are trying to put together stuff. So start, with a small dose, like 5 milligrams, and if that's okay, then bump yourself up. And it's okay, like every few days. In my book, I recommend that you keep a daily record of what you do. So if you're taking 25 milligrams a day, in your notepad, you want to have today's date, you want to put down what issues you're struggling with, how much you took today, you might want to put down what you're feeling after you've taken it, what you're feeling throughout the day, and then you will notice, like, let's say you take it at 9 a.m. in the morning, and by 5 p.m. you're like, oh man, I'm just like, okay, well guess what? It's time to send fresh troops out onto the battlefield. So you take some more CBD. So find what works for you and slowly up it, and you will recognize as you feel changes in your body what's happening. And keep a record, and then, the point I was going to say is you will begin to notice that, okay, if every day, like around 4 or 5 o'clock, that you're having to take dose, now you're beginning to see, okay, now I'm developing a new routine. That, okay, so maybe at 3 o'clock I might want to take a second dose, so by the time 5 o'clock comes, I don't get that pain again because I'm now building a routine, I'm building a schedule. So keep track of everything that you do, how much you take, and when you look back over time, you will look back and you will see things that you've written down, and you'll be like, wow, I'm noticing changes in my body, Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Just one question? Yes.
What was the fourth type of pain?
The fourth type of pain, CRPS, or chronic regional pain syndrome, that is the what they call the burning limb syndrome.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, that's. I thank God that I have not achieved that. That is a pretty nasty type of pain, and the unfortunate thing about CRPS is you might suffer an injury. I've heard a lot of people who have gone and had injuries, got operations, they were healed, and then out of that process, something changed, and now that limb is in just mega pain. And Some have actually gone as far as amputating the limb, or the limb has actually died, you know, slowly over time. So CRPS is a nasty, nasty type of pain. And it's, you know, I look at it as like, okay, well, it's like one person has like, they're on earth and yet still have one foot stuck in hell. They're on fire and they can't do anything about it.
I have that with fibromyalgia.
Yes.
I have that along with fibromyalgia, so yes, it's very painful.
Yes.
To get the neuropathy as well.
Are you using the plant at all to try and help?
Yes, I actually at one time was on a substantial amount of opiates, morphines, and Percocets all day, all night, trying to get
Those are heavy drugs.
function during the day, and then like, okay, take the same pills and say, nope, you gotta go to sleep, and it's just, creates other issues like depression and anxiety, and then they want to give you more medication. So for several years, thank you to the VA, I'm a military vet.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your acknowledgement, I appreciate that. Now I'm dealing with the post-Gulf War.
The syndrome.
Yes, and so fibromyalgia, and it's just horrible, but I'm off all of the opiates. And
That's a great
off
thing.
all the opiates now since March of 2014.
Wow.
And so I actually had moved from California at the time. Medical marijuana was legal at the time when we moved here, and then when you're dealing with the VA, fall under the federal system, they don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, I know.
Then I got labeled as a drug addict, and I'm like, really? So I just, I'm glad I'm off all of the opiates. I have my own business now.
Long distance high five, yes.
On the CBDs and the THC, because this is a level where I'm with my pain relief right now, and it's like I don't smoke to get high.
Right.
It is to medicate, and you need it. You need it, because otherwise you don't function.
Yes.
It's very debilitating. Very debilitating.
Yes, it is. Thank you for your service. I'm sorry that you're dealing with the Gulf War syndrome, and I pray God would heal you of that. I feel for you. Any other questions? Anything else you want to know? Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate that you guys came out. I know we're a long way. They were concerned about people coming over to this side of the room because it's so far away. So thank you for coming. I appreciate. I'll be around. So this is my book. I only have a couple left. If you guys would like to buy one, they're $20. I only have a few left because I have a new cover coming out. I've got a whole bunch of MDs that have endorsed the book. They've given me their endorsement. They've read the book and they've said some really cool things. So I have one of those, right? So the next ones are coming out next week. But a lot of physicians have come out, they've endorsed the book. Marvin Washington, ex-NFL Super Bowl player, Super Bowl ring holder, endorsed it. And so he's trying to work with me to do some stuff with the NFL, to educate them and teach them about, using CBD for pain management. So the plant, it's health. It's health to life. It's life. It's good. It's a good thing. So anyway, thank you guys for coming out. I so appreciate your time. If you guys would like to talk, I'm available while I tear stuff down. Feel free to ask questions.